Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. Every one of us has experienced pain, emotional, physical, or psychological. Pain is universal, but here's the truth we often overlook. Pain is not just a burden, it's also a signal, a lesson, and most importantly, a potential source of power. Pain is one of the few things in life that connects all human beings. It doesn't discriminate based on age, status, race, or background, whether it's the heartbreak of loss, the sting of failure, the ache of loneliness, or the weight of trauma. Everyone at some point encounters deep personal suffering. We may not all experience the same type of pain, but we all carry invisible wounds. It's easy to believe we're alone in our suffering, especially when we feel isolated or misunderstood. But the truth is, pain is a shared part of the human experience. And yet, despite the universality of pain, the outcomes are far from the same. Two people can experience similar tragedies, yet end up in completely different emotional and spiritual places. One may spiral into bitterness and hopelessness, while the other rises stronger, wiser, and more compassionate. What makes the difference? It's not just the pain itself. It's what you do with it. The real transformation begins not in the event, but in your response to it. This is where the concept of choice becomes powerful. While choosing power over pain is not about ignoring your suffering or pretending it doesn't matter. In fact, it's the opposite. It's about acknowledging your pain, sitting with it, understanding it, and then deciding that it won't define you. It means giving yourself permission to feel fully, but not allowing those feelings to keep you frozen. Emotional honesty is necessary, but so is emotional responsibility. Think about the strongest people you know. Often their strength didn't come from a life of ease, it was carved from hardship. Their character was shaped not by comfort, but by challenge. They didn't wake up one day full of resilience, they were forced to grow it through life's fires. And the strength they now carry wasn't gifted to them, it was chosen, day after day, moment after moment, when they could have given up, but didn't. This is not to say that choosing power is easy. It's one of the hardest decisions a person can make. It requires discipline, emotional maturity, and a willingness to do the inner work. It may involve setting boundaries, facing fears, grieving openly, or seeking help. But every one of those actions is a step toward reclaiming power. Pain pushes, but power pulls. You must reach for it. The beautiful thing is that power doesn't need to look like perfection. It can look like getting out of bed when everything inside you wants to stay under the covers. It can look like asking for help when your pride screams no. It can look like speaking your truth when your voice shakes. These seemingly small moments of bravery are what builds strength over time. Power in this context is not domination over others. It is mastery over your own response to life's hardest moments. So remember this, pain is something that happens to you, but power is something you decide to step into. It doesn't happen automatically. It comes from a deep decision to rise, to learn, to keep going. And that choice to not just survive, but to grow belongs to you and you alone. Our mindset is the lens through which we interpret the world, especially when we're in pain. It's not the situation alone that determines how we heal or move forward. It's how we think about the situation. When we are hurt, broken, or facing difficulty, our thoughts often spiral toward negativity. We may feel like victims of life, powerless to change what's happening. And that feeling of being stuck or defeated is often more damaging than the pain itself. The shift begins with realizing that while we cannot always change our circumstances, we can always change our mindset. The question, why me, is one of the first thoughts that arises in suffering. It's a natural human response to adversity. But if we stay in that question too long, it becomes a trap. Why me focuses on blame and resentment. It circles around unfairness and keeps us angered to what's been lost. It paints us as powerless. But when we choose to ask instead, what now? Something changes. This question doesn't erase the pain, but it creates forward motion. It opens the door to growth, possibility, and healing. It shifts our mind from what we can't control to what we can. Mindset is not just about being positive or optimistic in the face of pain. It's deeper than that. It's about adopting a belief system that sees pain as a teacher rather than just a tormentor. It's choosing to view your hardship as meaningful, even if that meaning is not immediately clear. People who have this kind of mindset aren't immune to suffering. They simply choose not to let it define their identity or dictate their destiny. They acknowledge pain, but they don't worship it. When your mindset begins to evolve, your energy follows. You start to notice new perspectives, new opportunities, and even new strengths you didn't know you had. The pain doesn't disappear, but it starts to feel different. It no longer controls you, it informs you. A powerful mindset doesn't pretend everything is okay when it isn't. It says, this is hard, this hurts, but I am not going to let it break me. I will find a way to grow through this. Some of the most transformative moments in life happen when you make the mental decision to rise, even while you are still down. Mindset is what gives that decision its fuel. It turns a breakdown into a breakthrough, not because the circumstances suddenly change, but because you change. When you see yourself as someone who can overcome, who can adapt, who can rebuild, you begin to act that way. And eventually, those actions reshape your reality. It's important to recognize that mindset is not static. It's something you cultivate. Like a muscle, it grows through use, effort, and repetition. Daily habits like journaling, meditation, gratitude, and reading uplifting content help condition your thoughts to lean toward resilience. Surrounding yourself with people who embody strength and perspective also reinforces that mental conditioning. Just like your body needs nourishment to stay strong, your mind needs intentional input to stay powerful in the face of life's storms. Pain can cloud our vision, making the truth is your mind will either imprison you or empower you. It will either magnify your pain or transform it into purpose. You may not have chosen your struggle, but you do get to choose what it means, how you respond, and who you become because of it. And that choice, rooted in mindset, is one of the most powerful tools you possess. Growth rarely happens in comfort. While we might wish for easy roads and smooth paths, it's often the difficult seasons, the ones we wouldn't wish on anyone, that shape us the most. Struggle has a way of exposing what's underneath the surface. It reveals our hidden fears, our deepest desires, and our truest strength. When we are forced to confront pain, we begin to unearth parts of ourselves we never knew existed. And that discovery, though painful, is a powerful form of growth. Consider how muscles grow in the body. Many people want transformation without going through the discomfort that comes with it. But real transformation isn't clean or painless. It's messy, uncertain, and often uncomfortable. Struggle strips away illusions and forces us to ask hard questions. Who am I when everything is stripped away? What do I really value? What does it mean to live fully? These questions don't usually arise when life is easy. They show up in the fire, and it's in answering them that we grow. Struggles also have a way of deepening our capacity for empathy. When you've walked through something painful, you begin to see others differently. You understand what it's like to feel broken, lost, or overlooked. And that understanding becomes part of your growth. It softens you in some ways and strengthens you in others. You become both more compassionate and more courageous. The struggle teaches you not only how to survive, but also how to connect more deeply with others. It's important to recognize that growth through struggle is not always immediate. Sometimes the lessons don't make sense until months or even years later. In the moment, all you feel is the weight of what you're carrying. But over time, if you're open to learning, those heavy moments become the foundation of your character. You begin to look back and realize that was the season that taught me who I really am. Pain becomes the path to power because it pushes you into becoming more than you were. Struggle also reveals your true values. When life gets stripped down to its rawest form, you start to recognize what matters and what doesn't. The things you used to chase might suddenly feel meaningless. The people who stand by you become more precious. You start to crave purpose, not just pleasure. Struggles shift your priorities. They refine your focus. And through that refining, you grow in clarity and conviction. One of the most powerful outcomes of struggle is self-trust. When you go through something difficult and come out the other side, even bruised or scarred, you begin to believe in your own strength. You've faced the darkness and made it through. That memory becomes a mental anchor for future storms. You start to say, if I made it through that, I can make it through this. That internal strength is something no one can give you. It must be earned through experience, Ultimately, struggle is the training ground for greatness, not because pain is good in itself, but because of what it produces in us when we respond with courage. It strips away what's artificial and brings us face to face with our truest selves. It asks us to rise even when we feel like falling, and in answering that call, we begin to grow not in spite of our struggle, but because of it. Pain, when left unmanaged, can feel like a weight that drags us down, but when redirected, it can become fuel, raw, powerful, and transformative. It can light a fire inside of us that pushes us to take action, to rise above circumstances, and to forge a new path with intensity and purpose. Many people try to run from their pain, numb it, or hide it. But those who learn to channel it discover that it can drive them toward greatness. Instead of allowing it to suffocate them, they allow it to propel them forward. Pain has energy. It's charged with emotion, memory, and intensity. It can manifest as anger, frustration, grief, or desperation. These are strong forces, and though they can be destructive when misused, they can also be harnessed into something constructive. Some of the most powerful creations, art, music, literature, inventions, movements were born not out of joy, but out of deep personal pain. Pain clarifies what matters and drives a person to speak, act, and create from a place of urgency. When you feel pain deeply, it can serve as a signal that something in your life must change. It draws your attention like a flashing red light, saying this can't go on. That discomfort can awaken the courage to take a leap you were afraid to take before. People leave toxic relationships, start new careers, write books, build businesses, or begin healing journeys because the pain finally became unbearable. In this way, pain becomes a launching point, not a destination. In moments of exhaustion or hopelessness, it can help to ask yourself, how can I use this? What can I build with what's breaking me? That question reframes pain from being a dead end into a new beginning. It gives pain a purpose. When you feel like giving up, the memory of your struggle can remind you why you started in the first place. It becomes your motivation to keep showing up, keep fighting, keep building, because the pain created a need that only action can answer. Some people achieve incredible things simply because they were told they never could. They were doubted, dismissed, or hurt, and instead of internalizing that as defeat, they used it to fuel determination. Pain, in that sense, becomes a source of relentless drive. It whispers, prove them wrong. It urges you to build a life so full of meaning that your scars become a story of survival, not surrender. The very thing that once broke you becomes your badge of strength. It's important to understand that using pain as fuel is not about revenge or proving worth to others. It's about proving to yourself that you are not defined by what hurt you. When you channel pain into purpose, you reclaim agency over your life. You turn something that once made you feel helpless into a reason to act, grow, and lead. The energy once spent on despair is redirected toward healing, progress, and impact. Pain also fuels empathy and advocacy. People who've been through significant suffering often feel a deep desire to help others avoid the same fate, or at least know they're not alone. This kind of fuel doesn't just push people forward individually, it moves them to reach back and lift others with them. When your pain becomes your purpose, your struggle begins to serve something greater than just your own survival. The fire of pain can either consume you or refine you. It's the way you direct the flames that makes all the difference. You can use it to destroy or to forge something new. When you wake up each day feeling the weight of what you've been through, let that weight remind you of your strength, your urgency, and your why. Let it move you to act with more intention, to live with more passion, and to love with more depth. Because if you're going to carry the pain anyway, you might as well make it powerful. Pain has a unique way of stripping life down to its core. When you're in the midst of suffering, distractions fall away and suddenly you're face to face with your values, your wounds, and your truth. In that raw, exposed place, a question often begins to stir. Why am I here? While pain itself doesn't give you the answer, it creates the urgency to start asking. That urgency can be the very catalyst that launches a search for purpose, something deeper than comfort, bigger than success, and more enduring than any temporary happiness. Purpose isn't always discovered in moments of clarity and inspiration. More often is forged in darkness. It's the realization that your struggle, while brutal and unfair, can be used, not just endured. The things that hurt us the most tend to point us in the direction of the people we're meant to help, the problems we're meant to solve, or the message we're meant to share. When you begin to view your pain as a pointer rather than just a punishment, it shifts the entire narrative. It turns survival into mission. There's something powerful that happens when a person decides to make their pain meaningful. Whether it's a parent who starts a foundation after losing a child, a survivor who becomes an advocate, or an artist who channels heartbreak into beauty, purpose gives pain a container. It doesn't erase the suffering, but it gives it direction. It's like turning a flood into a river. Still powerful, still overwhelming at times, but now moving towards something instead of drowning everything in its path. Letting pain shape your purpose doesn't mean you have to become a public figure or change the whole world. It can be as personal as choosing to be a better friend, a more present parent, or a source of comfort to someone going through what you once survived. Purpose lives in the decision to use what hurt you as a way to heal others, or even just to better understand them. Often, the people who've been through the deepest suffering become the safest place for others in pain. Pain shapes purpose by refining your vision. After suffering, you tend to see what matters more clearly. The petty things lose their power. You begin to focus your energy on what truly makes a difference. The job that once felt fulfilling might feel hollow, while a quiet act of service might suddenly feel meaningful. That's not weakness, it's wisdom. Pain has a way of awakening you to the brevity and beauty of life. It makes you want to spend your time on something that matters. There is also a sacred kind of credibility that comes with pain. People listen differently when they know you've walked through fire. They feel safer in your presence. They believe you when you say, "I understand," because you do. And that credibility can become part of your purpose. It positions you to lead from authenticity, to speak from experience, and to serve from a place of deep compassion. You don't have to pretend to have all the answers. The fact that you've endured gives your words weight and your presence power. Sometimes purpose emerges when we realize our pain gave us a message we never would found otherwise. That message might be about resilience, forgiveness, justice, or healing. It might be about breaking generational cycles, changing community narratives, or challenging systemic injustice. Whatever it is, the pain becomes the teacher and your purpose becomes the lesson you share with the world, not through theory, but through the life you live every day. And perhaps the most transformative part of allowing pain to shape your purpose is that it gives you a reason to keep going. It turns despair into direction. It gives your suffering a role in the larger story of your life. And while it doesn't undo what happened, it ensures that what broke you also built something lasting, something needed, something real. One of the most empowering things you can do when you're in pain is to look to others who have walked a similar path and emerged stronger. In the depths of struggle, it's easy to feel isolated, as though no one could possibly understand what you're going through. But the truth is, countless people have endured loss, trauma, failure, illness, and heartbreak, and not only survived, but turned their pain into wisdom, strength, and legacy. Their stories are not just tales of survival, they are roadmaps offering insight into what's possible. When you intentionally seek out those who've overcome adversity, you gain perspective that transcends your immediate emotions. Hearing about someone else who has healed from deep betrayal or rebuilt their life after devastating loss can be a powerful reminder that what you're feeling is temporary, even if it doesn't feel that way right now. Their scars become evidence that wounds do heal. Their lives become proof that it is possible to carry pain without being consumed by it. Learning from others isn't about comparison or copying someone else's journey. It's about drawing strength from their resilience and gathering tools that you might apply in your own healing. What books did they read? What habits did they build? How did they manage their darkest moments? When did they ask for help and from whom? These aren't just stories, they're strategies. People who've overcome difficulty often leave clues behind, and it's up to us to notice and learn from them. There's also something uniquely healing about seeing your own pain reflected in someone else's experience. It helps you name your emotions and validate your reality. You begin to realize that what you're going through isn't strange or shameful, it's human. Whether you find these individuals in books, documentaries, support groups, podcasts, or even personal conversations, their presence can serve as a kind of mirror, helping you process your own journey with greater clarity and compassion. Sometimes, the people you learn the most from aren't famous or even public figures. They are your grandmother who survived a war, your friend who beat cancer, a co-worker who left an abusive relationship and started over. These everyday overcomers often hold profound wisdom because they've lived through their pain without applause or recognition. Their strength is quiet but real, and their insights are grounded in lived experience, not just theory. Don't overlook the value of their stories just because they are not on a stage. There is also a deep humility that comes from learning from others. It requires you to acknowledge that you don't have all the answers, and that's okay. It creates space for growth, openness, and connection. When you listen to someone else's story, you're not just collecting information. You're engaging in empathy. You're stepping into their world, if only for a moment, and allowing their truth to reshape your own. That is a powerful act of healing in itself. Importantly, learning from others who have overcome reminds you that pain is not the final chapter. The people you look up to didn't stay in survival mode forever. They made choices, sometimes small, sometimes radical, that moved them forward. They cried, doubted, failed, and fell, but they kept going. And in doing so, they transformed their pain into power. By studying their paths, you begin to see that your current state is not your final destination. It's just one part of your evolution. In moments when your own strength feels too far away, let the strength of others carry you. Let their words echo in your mind when yours fail. Let their perseverance become a placeholder for your hope until you're ready to reclaim it. Because if they made it, if they turned pain into purpose, sorrow into story, and wounds into wisdom, then you can too. Their journey is not meant to overshadow yours, but to ignite the possibility of what your journey can become. There is a truth that often lies dormant beneath the weight of our pain. You were never meant to stay broken. You were never meant to simply survive your suffering and then live in its shadow. You were meant to rise. Even if you don't feel strong right now, even if your heart is heavy and your hope feels distant, the potential to rise has always been in you. The fact that you're still here, still breathing, still reaching for something more is proof of that. Rising isn't about being unaffected by hardship. It's about choosing not to let hardship have the final say. We are conditioned to think that being broken means we are less, but sometimes it is in our brokenness that we discover the parts of us that were never truly alive. Pain strips away illusions. It brings everything to the surface. And in those vulnerable places, we meet our truest selves. Rising doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means acknowledging everything that isn't and still deciding to move forward. It's a quiet revolution of the soul, a refusal to be defined by the things that try to destroy you. To rise is to reclaim your identity. It's standing in the aftermath of trauma, of loss, of disappointment, and saying, this is not the end of me. For every moment you've doubted your worth, for every time you felt invisible, rising is your response. It's how you answer the lies that say you're not enough. It's how you push back against the fear that says healing isn't possible. You don't have to have all the answers or be fully healed to start rising. You only need the courage to try. There is immense strength in every step you take toward rising. Whether it's getting out of bed on a day when everything feels heavy, reaching out for support, setting a boundary, or daring to dream again, those are acts of rising. They may not look dramatic on the outside, but they are powerful. They are proof that even in your lowest moments, you are choosing life, growth, and transformation. Every small rise builds towards something greater. And eventually, those small moments of defiance become your comeback. Rising is not linear. There will be days you feel like you've made progress, only to be pulled back by memories, grief, or fear. That doesn't mean you failed. That means you're human. True rising is messy and layered. It doesn't erase what happened to you, but it rewrites what it means. It means your story includes heartbreak, but also healing. It means your past holds struggle, but your future holds strength. You can carry pain without being crushed by it. You can carry your past without being owned by it. Every person who has ever risen from darkness had to believe, if only for a moment, that something better was possible. That belief may have started small, but it was enough. Sometimes rising begins with simply imagining that you can. You visualize a version of yourself who is no longer shackled by shame, who speaks with confidence, who lives with joy. You may not be that person yet, but by holding holding that vision, you begin to rise toward it. Hope is not a guarantee, but it is a seed, and rising is how you water it. You are not born to live in defeat. The same fire that has carried generations before you burns within you too. Think of the people you admire, the stories that have moved you. Their power came not from a perfect life, but from resilience. You are part of that legacy. The strength you need to rise is already in your blood, your bones, your breath. It may feel buried under layers of fear and fatigue, but it is there, waiting to be remembered. Every time you choose not to give up, you are honoring that strength. The idea that you were meant to rise is not meant to pressure you. It's meant to empower you. Rising doesn't mean becoming someone else. It means returning to who you were before the world taught you to shrink. It means letting the pain refine you, not define you. It means learning to walk in the fullness of your story, even the broken chapters. You were never meant to disappear into your wounds. You were meant to rise from them. Scarred but sacred, changed but chosen. So now, as you stand in the aftermath of what hurt you, remember this. Your pain was never meant to be the period at the end of your sentence. It was meant to be the comma, the pause before something greater. You have learned, grown, and endured more than you ever thought possible. You have cried, questioned, fallen, and still you're here. Not just surviving, but awakening. The power that once felt so distant is already within you. It's in the lessons you've learned, the strength you've discovered, and the purpose that's being born out of your struggle. This is your invitation, not to forget what broke you, but to transform it, use it, shape it, let it sharpen your voice, deepen your compassion, and ignite your mission. Let it be the force that drives you to help others rise as you rise. You are not weak because you felt pain. You are powerful because you've walked through it and kept going. You are proof that even shattered things can shine again. You are the evidence that pain doesn't have to be the end. It can be the beginning of something stronger, bolder, and more beautiful. Your story isn't over. In fact, the most powerful chapters may just be beginning. Rise not in spite of your pain, but because of it. Because you were not meant to break. You are meant to build. You are meant to lead. You were meant to rise.